The cherry blossoms in ancient Japan were revered not despite their fleeting nature, but because of it. In their brief, magnificent bloom and gentle fall, the Japanese saw the perfect metaphor for life itself, beautiful precisely because it doesn't last. This wisdom about impermanence resonates deeply with what the Stoics understood about love and loss. The question we're exploring today touches something universal in human experience. Is detachment essential for true love? At first glance, this seems paradoxical. How can detachment possibly deepen love? Aren't they fundamentally opposed? To love is to connect, to care, to be invested in another's well-being. To detach suggests pulling away, creating distance, caring less. But this apparent contradiction dissolves when we look more closely. The detachment the Stoics advocated isn't emotional coldness. It's a profound shift in perspective that can actually intensify our capacity to love, while liberating us from the suffering that often accompanies it. As we explore this territory together, I'll draw not only from Stoic wisdom, but from other philosophical traditions that have wrestled with the same human dilemma. How to love deeply in a world where everything we cherish is temporary. From Zen Buddhism to existentialism, from indigenous wisdom to modern psychology, different paths have led to surprisingly similar insights about love's true nature. Beyond clinging, what detachment really means. When people first encounter the Stoic concept of detachment, there's often a visceral recoil. It sounds like emotional withdrawal, a defensive retreating from life's most precious connections. This misunderstanding stems from conflating detachment with disconnection. They are fundamentally different states of being. Imagine holding a delicate bird in your hands. You can clench your fists tightly around it, driven by your desire to possess and keep it, killing it in the process. Or you can hold your palms open, allowing it to rest there freely, appreciating its presence without grasping, knowing it may fly away at any moment. This open-handed quality of attention is what the Stoics meant by detachment. Not caring less, but caring differently. Epictetus expressed this beautifully. With every kiss you give your child, silently reflect on the possibility that they may die tomorrow. This practice wasn't meant to diminish joy or generate anxiety. It was designed to strip away the complacency that dulls our appreciation for what stands before us right now. However, where Stoicism reaches its limits, Eastern traditions take us further. While Stoics primarily operate through rational acceptance, a mental preparation for loss, Zen Buddhism offers the practice of radical presence that transcends the need for psychological preparation altogether. The Zen teacher Thich Nhat Hanh suggests something more profound than Stoic anticipation of loss. He writes of interbeing, the recognition that we are not separate entities merely preparing for inevitable separation, but deeply interconnected beings whose conventional boundaries are ultimately illusory. Where the Stoic might say, "I accept that you are not mine to keep," the Zen practitioner might say, "There is no separate you or me to begin with, only this moment of shared consciousness." Similarly, the Hindu concept of Advaita, non-duality, suggests that love's highest expression isn't found in accepting separation wisely, as Stoics teach, but in recognizing that separation itself is, at the deepest level, an illusion, albeit a necessary one for navigating daily life. These Eastern perspectives don't invalidate the Stoic approach. They complement and extend it. Stoicism excels at developing the psychological resilience needed to love without possessiveness. Eastern traditions add the recognition that beyond resilience lies a deeper truth, the ultimate interconnection of all beings, where love isn't just a feeling to be managed wisely, but the very nature of consciousness itself. By integrating these perspectives, we can move beyond the limitations of any single tradition. We can develop the Stoics' resilience and clear seeing without being confined by the Stoics' sometimes excessive emphasis on emotional self-sufficiency. We can embrace the Eastern recognition of interconnection without losing the Stoics' practical wisdom about navigating human relationships in a world of change. This integration creates a more complete philosophy of love, one that is both practical and profound, both resilient and open, both wise and warm. The hidden prison, how attachment distorts love. Much of what we call love isn't love at all. It's attachment masquerading as love. Consider the possessive partner who monitors their beloved's every move, the parent who can't bear their child's independence, the friend whose care comes with strings attached. Is this love? Or is it fear wearing love's mask? True love involves a profound respect for the autonomy and separate existence of the beloved. It acknowledges that the other is not an extension of ourselves or a means to fulfill our needs. They are their own sovereign being, with their own path and purpose. As Friedrich Nietzsche captured, love is not consolation, it is light. Not something we grasp at to fill our emptiness or ease our fears, but a clear seeing and appreciation of another's existence. This distinction transforms how we love. When attachment drives our loving, we become focused on what we can get, how we can secure it, how we can control it. When love flows freely, unobstructed by attachment, we become focused on the well-being and flourishing of the other, without the distorting lens of our needs and fears. The Stoics understood that healthy love requires what we might call intimate spaciousness, close enough to care deeply, separate enough to see clearly. As Rainer Maria Rilke expressed in a letter, a good marriage is one in which each partner appoints the other to be the guardian of his solitude, and thus they show each other the greatest possible trust. This intimate spaciousness, this guarding of each other's solitude while remaining deeply connected, is the heart of what Stoic detachment makes possible in love. Think of two trees growing side by side. If they're planted too close, their roots compete and their branches tangle, ultimately diminishing both. If they're planted too far apart, they miss the protection and companionship they could offer each other. At the perfect distance, they can both reach their full height, their branches sometimes touching in the wind, their roots drawing strength from different parts of the soil. The Stoic wisdom about finding this balance comes through their emphasis on what they can and cannot control. We cannot control another person's feelings, choices, or destiny, and the attempt to do so distorts love into something else entirely. What we can control is our own responses, choices, and the quality of presence we bring to the relationship. The person before you is not yours to possess. They are their own. Your love is a response to their existence, not a claim upon it. The Stoics would say that this recognition, this detachment from the illusion of ownership, doesn't diminish love. It purifies it. It allows love to flow without the contaminants of fear, need, and control. What remains is something clearer, stronger, and more authentic than attachment could ever be. This perspective liberates us to love with both passion and equanimity, to care deeply while holding lightly. It allows for a love that's both warm and spacious, both connected and free. Memento Mori, the paradox of contemplating loss. Let us prepare our minds as if we come to the very end of life, Seneca advised. Let us postpone nothing. Let us balance life's books each day. This practice of memento mori, remembering that we are mortal, stands at the heart of the Stoic approach to love. While it might seem morbid to modern sensibilities, for the Stoics it was the secret to living fully and loving deeply. The most powerful application of this awareness is what philosophers now call negative visualization, the deliberate practice of imagining the loss of what we cherish. By contemplating the absence of those we love, something remarkable happens. We dissolve the spell of habituation that dulls our appreciation. We wake up to the miracle before us. Think of how sharply you appreciate a lover after a near breakup, a child after a health scare, a parent after a sobering diagnosis. The Stoics understood that we shouldn't need these actual brushes with loss to wake us up to what matters. Instead, they developed a practice of intentional contemplation that achieves the same awakening without the actual crisis. When we forget death, we take life for granted. We postpone expressions of love. We waste precious hours on petty conflicts. We assume there will always be time to repair what's broken, say what needs saying, appreciate what stands before us. Yet where Stoicism approaches death primarily as an intellectual tool for better living, other traditions offer perspectives that take us further. In Mexican Dia de los Muertos celebrations, death isn't just something to soberly contemplate, it's something to engage with playfully, colorfully, even joyfully. The relationship with those who have died doesn't end but transforms. Where Stoicism teaches acceptance of separation, these traditions suggest a continued bond beyond physical presence. The Tibetan Buddhist tradition takes yet another approach through its Bardo Thodol, commonly known as the Tibetan Book of the Dead. Rather than using death contemplation simply to enhance present appreciation, these practices prepare consciousness itself for the journey through death. This perspective suggests that our relationship with impermanence can go beyond the Stoics' rational acceptance to become a form of spiritual preparation. Indigenous wisdom traditions worldwide often view ancestors not as simply gone, but as active presences and guides. This perspective challenges the Stoic emphasis on emotional self-sufficiency by suggesting that love transcends death not just in memory, but in continued relationship. All these traditions share with Stoicism a clear-eyed recognition of mortality. But where Stoicism primarily uses death awareness as a tool for rational living, these other approaches suggest something more profound, that our relationship with death itself can transform, becoming not just an intellectual exercise, but a doorway to deeper dimensions of existence. By integrating these perspectives with Stoic wisdom, we discover a more complete approach to impermanence. We can maintain the Stoics' clarity and equanimity while embracing the possibility that love's significance extends beyond what rational philosophy alone can fully articulate. The Japanese concept of mono-no aware, the pathos of things, captures this integrated approach. It's not just about rationally accepting impermanence, as the Stoics advise, but aesthetically and emotionally embracing it. It's the catching of your breath at the height of cherry blossom season, knowing the petals will soon fall. It's the tender ache of holding a sleeping child, aware of how quickly they're growing. This contemplation serves two profound purposes simultaneously. It intensifies our appreciation and builds our resilience. But perhaps most importantly, it opens us to the mystery that exists beyond our rational understanding, the possibility that love's significance transcends even our most thoughtful philosophical frameworks. The alchemy of adversity, growing through relationship challenges. Relationships inevitably involve challenges, disagreements, disappointments, miscommunications, competing needs. The Stoics saw these not as unfortunate obstacles to happiness, but as the very conditions through which wisdom and virtue develop. As Epictetus taught, difficulties show men what they are. It's easy to practice philosophy when everything is going well. The real test and the real opportunity for growth comes through difficulties. This perspective transforms how we view relationship challenges. Rather than seeing them as problems to be eliminated, we can recognize them as the very crucible in which love's gold is refined. Think of the Japanese art of kintsugi, where broken pottery is repaired with gold. The breaks aren't disguised, they're highlighted, honored as part of the object's history and beauty. Similarly, the challenges we face in relationships when engaged with wisdom don't diminish the relationship. They become its most beautiful and valuable aspects. Yet where Stoicism focuses primarily on individual virtue development through adversity, other traditions offer complementary insights that take us further. The Taoist concept of wu-wei suggests that relationship difficulties often stem from forcing rather than flowing, from resisting the natural rhythm of connection and separation. Where the Stoic might ask, how can I respond virtuously to this conflict? The Taoist might ask, what natural flow am I resisting that created this conflict in the first place? The Buddhist tradition adds another dimension through its teaching on interdependence. While Stoicism tends to emphasize personal boundaries and individual responsibility, Buddhism suggests that self and other are ultimately convenient fictions. The psychologist Carl Jung captured this perspective in his concept of the shadow, those parts of ourselves we find difficult to acknowledge or accept. He recognized that our closest relationships inevitably activate these shadow elements. When we react with disproportionate anger, hurt, or fear to something our partner does, it's often because they've touched a tender spot in our shadow. This perspective moves beyond the Stoic emphasis on personal virtue to suggest that relationship challenges reveal not just our individual character, but the collective patterns we participate in. Where Stoicism excels at developing personal resilience, these traditions add the recognition that challenges also invite us to transcend the very concept of separate selfhood that makes resilience necessary. The Hindu tradition of Tantra offers perhaps the most radical expansion of the Stoic approach. Where Stoics see relationship challenges as opportunities for virtue development, Tantra sees tension between lovers as a creative force that can generate spiritual awakening. In this view, relationship difficulties aren't just tests of character, but potentially sacred gateways to expanded consciousness. Integrating these perspectives creates a more complete philosophy of relationship challenges. We can maintain the Stoics' focus on responding virtuously while also recognizing that adversity invites us into deeper truths about interconnection and the limitations of ego-based perspectives. Rather than blaming the other person for causing difficult feelings, this integrated approach would recognize relationship challenges as valuable information about both our individual psychology and our shared patterns. As Marcus Aurelius advised, when you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, the people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly. This isn't pessimism, it's preparation. It's recognizing that other people will inevitably trigger our issues, and that's precisely where our opportunity for growth lies. The integrated wisdom here is that relationship challenges are not merely opportunities for developing personal virtue, as Stoicism suggests, but also invitations to transcend our limited self-concepts, as Eastern traditions teach. The alchemical transformation happens not just within individuals, but in the space between them, in the relationship itself, which becomes a third entity greater than the sum of its parts. This doesn't mean accepting mistreatment or staying in unhealthy relationships. The Stoics emphasized practical wisdom, the ability to discern when to engage and when to withdraw. But it does mean recognizing that the difficulties in healthy relationships are not obstacles to happiness. They're opportunities for both personal and transpersonal transformation. Living the wisdom, love in practice. Philosophy becomes truly valuable when it transforms how we live. Let's explore how Stoic principles about love can be applied to concrete relationship situations and the liberation that comes from this approach. Navigating a relationship's end. When a relationship ends, whether through breakup, divorce, or death, our natural response often involves resistance, denial, and a sense that something has gone terribly wrong. The practice: begin with accepting reality as it is, not as you wish it to be. Allow yourself to feel grief fully, without the additional suffering of believing you shouldn't feel this way. Recognize that while you cannot control the relationship's end, you retain full agency in how you respond. The liberation. This acceptance frees you from the additional layer of suffering that comes from fighting reality. As Marcus Aurelius advised, accept the things to which fate binds you, and love the people with whom fate brings you together, but do so with all your heart. This isn't resignation, it's clarity. When you stop expending energy on denial, you can direct that energy toward healing and growth. Loving someone through change. People change, their interests evolve, their values shift, their needs transform. Our natural response is often resistance, attempts to keep them as they were, to maintain the familiar version we became attached to. The practice: love the person before you, not your memory or expectation of them. Engage in regular, fresh seeing practices, consciously setting aside your accumulated impressions to perceive them anew. Check whether your disappointment stems from their actual behavior or from your expectations. Practice genuine curiosity about who they are now, rather than assuming you already know. The liberation. When you release attachment to who someone was, you create space for genuine connection with who they are. This approach creates freedom not only for you, but for the beloved. As Khalil Gibran wrote, "Let there be spaces in your togetherness, and let the winds of the heavens dance between you." Your love becomes liberating rather than constraining, allowing both of you to grow authentically. Handling uncertainty in relationships. All relationships involve uncertainty. Will this last? Are they being honest? Will they still love me if they knew this about me? Our natural response to uncertainty is anxiety and attempts to establish control. The practice. Distinguish clearly between what you can and cannot control. You cannot control another's feelings, choices, or future actions. You can control your own choices, values, and responses. Replace reassurance seeking, which provides only temporary relief, with present engagement. Practice trusting, not naively, but as a conscious choice to live according to your values rather than your fears. The liberation. This approach transforms uncertainty from a source of anxiety to a doorway to deeper presence. When you are not constantly trying to secure the future, you become available to experience the relationship fully in the present. The paradox is that when you release your desperate grip on certainty, connection often grows stronger rather than weaker. Freed from the weight of your projections, expectations, and demands, relationships can flourish in ways that controlling love never permits. Managing jealousy and possessiveness. Jealousy and possessiveness often masquerade as love, but they're actually manifestations of insecurity and fear of loss. The practice. When jealousy arises, recognize it as a signal about your fears, not about the other person's actions. Distinguish between the immediate emotion, which you feel but don't need to act on, and your response to it, which you can choose. Practice appreciative attention, actively noticing and appreciating the unique qualities of your beloved without comparing yourself to others or them to your ideals. The liberation. As you loosen the grip of possessiveness, you discover that genuine security comes not from controlling the other, but from your own inner stability. This spacious love doesn't mean caring less. It means caring wisely. It means seeing the beloved clearly, appreciating them fully, respecting their sovereign existence, and wishing for their highest good, whether or not that aligns with your preferences. Supporting growth. Even when it's challenging, true love involves wanting the best for the other, even when their growth or development challenges the relationship. The practice. Ask regularly, what would best serve their growth? Rather than just, what would I prefer? When their path diverges from your expectations, practice the discipline of blessing rather than clinging, actively wishing them well, even if their choices aren't what you would have chosen. Distinguish between your ego's desires and your deeper love for them as a sovereign being, the liberation. This approach transforms love from a grasping need to a generous offering. Rather than diminishing connection, this often deepens it. When someone feels truly supported in their authentic unfolding, trust flourishes. The relationship becomes a sanctuary for growth rather than a constraint upon it. These practices share a common thread. They all involve bringing greater awareness, presence, and agency to our relationships. They invite us to love with both our hearts and our wisdom engaged, to care deeply while seeing clearly. The remarkable paradox is that by embracing the Stoic approach to love, clear-eyed engagement without clinging, we discover we don't have to choose between loving deeply and living wisely. The two can inform and enhance each other, creating a love that is both passionate and peaceful, both connected and free. In a world that often confuses attachment with love, this perspective offers something precious, a path to loving deeply without being destroyed by loss, a way to care profoundly while maintaining inner stability and the capacity to embrace life's most meaningful connections without being enslaved by them. This isn't just philosophical theory, it's a practical approach to one of life's most fundamental challenges: how to love fully in a world where everything we cherish is temporary. The answer, it turns out, isn't to love less cautiously, it's to love more wisely. Conclusion: the alchemy of wisdom and love. We've explored how the apparent contradictions in Stoic love between detachment and connection, passion and peace dissolve when seen clearly. The Stoic approach isn't a technique, but a perspective shift from desperate grasping to open-handed appreciation. This shift develops through consistent practice of seeing clearly, accepting reality, and focusing on what we can control. What emerges, perhaps most transformatively, is that love itself becomes a form of spiritual practice. Relationships become sacred laboratories for cultivating wisdom, where every interaction offers an opportunity to practice presence and virtue. Love transforms from merely something we feel into something we practice daily. This creates an alchemy where wisdom and love purify each other. Wisdom without love grows cold. Love without wisdom becomes desperate. Together they create something precious, a love both warm and clear-sighted, passionate and peaceful. Seneca captured this beautifully. What is required is not fortitude of the hands, but of the heart. I invite you to experiment with these principles in your own relationships. The path isn't always easy, but it leads to something rare: the capacity to love deeply without being destroyed by loss, maintaining inner freedom while embracing life's most meaningful connections. If you found value here, please subscribe and share your experiences in the comments. Until next time, remember that the wisest love isn't found in desperate clinging, but in appreciating the miracle that, for this brief moment, we get to share existence with those we cherish.